Kicking off today's sessions are two people who have never asked permission and have partied, played, and pillow fought in the streets of Toronto and New York for the last 7 years. Here to share with you how the urban playground movement has spread to 150 cities around the world is Kevin Bracken and Lori Kufner. Please join me in welcoming them.
Thank you. So, for those of you who don't know us, which I think is most of you,
I'm Lori Kufner.
and I'm Kevin Bracken.
And we are Newmindspace.
So, I'd like to begin with a video of what I think is the most epic event that has ever been created. We have sound here.
So first we'd like to talk about how we got how we got people hitting each other with pillows in over 100 cities around the world.
And then we'd like to talk about why is it that everybody wants a piece. So in 2005, we were awfully bored. We were two students at Ontario universities with way too much homework and way too few fake IDs. So
So we sort of started glamour bombing or leaving little messages and things around campus and around the city. And it sort of turned into what we like to call the urban bliss dissemination.
So our first event was a massive Easter egg hunt. Easter was coming up, we decided we wanted to do something. And instead of filling these Easter eggs with chocolate, we decided to fill them with little messages instead. Because, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't eat chocolate I picked up on Yonge Street. So we hid 2,000 eggs around Yonge Street from Queen to Bloor. We hid them with little messages like, there's life outside. And these messages were mostly directed at our fellow university students that we thought were really awfully boring. So afterward, people asked us, what is the next event that you guys are going to do? And the truth is, we actually hadn't considered doing another event after that. We thought, this is it, we're just going to do this fun thing. But then after that, we decided, well, maybe we should do another event. So that's when we came up with our method for coming up with new events.
And basically that is take a favorite childhood activity or game and move it to an urban setting and then invite all your friends.
So first we'd like to tell you a little bit about our main events and the genesis of them. So our first pillow fight in Toronto was in, I think, November of 2005. And this one is particularly relevant because it was, so at the time there was, it was right after what was dubbed the Summer of the Gun. And, right now we're talking about gun violence, and shortly after our pillow fight in Dundas Square was when Jane Kribo was tragically murdered. So check out this video of our first pillow fight. attention to the yellow tape. I don't know if you can see it, but there's yellow caution tape around these barricades, and the barricades surround chalk outlines because there was an anti-gun rally taking place at the same time. So as is our usual style, we didn't really see if Dundas Square had been booked for an event before we did one there. And much to our chagrin, it was actually an anti-gun rally. However, I still need to be a little cynical about it because the real intent was for Peter Kent, Conservative MP, to just sort of have this reactionary event. But a crazy thing happened, so he saw our pillow fight, and he's a pretty sharp-witted dude. He got on the microphone and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at these kids here, and they're here to teach us a lesson that we should not be fighting with bullets, but with feathers." So, so this was the cover of the Metro the next day. So Peter Kent successfully co-opted our event. We're definitely not a group called Uniting Toronto Against Guns, but he somehow pulled it off. So another favorite of ours is the subway party. And when we created the subway party, it was a time when who's the chair of the TTC then? No, before that. So he had this campaign called Pizzazz Me. He had this idea that we need to spice up the subway. We need to have like entertainers on it, and so we took it to heart.
Tonight we're just having a subway party. Lots of people are here. It's a lot of fun. Some people have brought like cookies, games. Hopefully someone brought music. This is something fun you can do in the middle of the city, and you can only do this where there are tons of people.
It's the urban playground. It's the taking back the public space.
Shock, surprise, excitement, all at once. So yeah, the word for this thing spread over the internet. Everybody found out that way, and people just knew to show up, and that was what happened. The rest is history.
Free party that costs you subway fare. Be nice people. Have a good time.
Well, we live and work in these spaces, but we don't play in them. It's a public space. Why can't we be fun in it? I mean, we're being respectful. It just shows that we can have fun, that we can have a blast, that we can meet people and do things that are not what you normally do, and still be perfectly respectful and still have a great time.
So that was a clip that I stole from The Hour. I think that's the first time that someone spelled her name wrong, but it's okay because it was George Strombolopoulos.
So another one of our tried and true events is Capture the Flag. And that began as a Manhunt game run by Matt Collins, part of the indie rock scene in Toronto. And we took it to New York. However, we kind of realized pretty quickly that New Yorkers don't really like to run around the streets all by themselves, and they would much rather stay with a group of friends. So we tried to think of other games that you could play in a similar fashion, and Capture the Flag came up. You can run around in packs of people and tag people and capture flags and decoy stuff and not have to be afraid that your friends are going to tag you as it.
friend? There's got 3 of us. I don't know. Folks from the outside of the circle that's going to be drawn in dots. Make sure to check out our website, Newmindspace.com. Our next event is coming up in October.
Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome weekend.
So that's probably our most unorganized chaos event, and definitely one we would never get permission for if we asked for it.
So, in 2006, we started to receive email, a lot of email, from all over the world. And the strange thing was, a lot of it was coming from cities that already had similar events going on. So we got an email from Dublin one time, and it said, hey, when are you going to do a pillow fight in Dublin? But there was already one happening there. So we realized that groups around the world were having trouble publicizing their events. We thought there's got to be, there's got to be some way that we can help other groups publicize their events.
So we decided it was time to create a global movement that would capture international attention. So the goal was basically to get people around the world to realize that this was already happening where they were living or in places nearby. So we sort of built the urban playground movement and contacted people in their respective cities and let them know that there was already these decentralized movements happening there.
So first we wanted to test our hypothesis that these people around the world were interested in being part of a cohesive community that put these events on. So to test it, we created a listserv with all the organizers of pillow fights around the world. We contacted everyone who we'd known that put on a pillow fight, and we said, hey, do you want to be part of this group? We'll share tips, we'll share secrets, and we'll talk about maybe having a coordinated day. So after that, we found it was a huge hit. They actually loved it, and we started with 30 cities in 2007. So we created pillowfightday.com. It was a website that let you easily list your pillow fight, and it had a multi-language guide called How to Host Your Own Pillow Fight. It turns out that after the States, the biggest pillow fighting country is Brazil. So finally, we had our first international pillow fight, and this was the most recent one. So there were about 120 cities that participated this year, and I was really afraid that South Africa wasn't going to join up, but finally they did. We got to 6 continents, one day Antarctica and the International Space Station.
Well, hopefully it doesn't break.
So I think the way that we really got all these cities around the world doing this was by following sort of like maybe like a terrorist cell strategy. And in the sense that if you agree with our ideology, then you can be part of the movement. We don't really have to accept you as long as you follow the ideology, then you can consider yourself a part of the urban playground movement. But a question we're often asked is,
so we also get asked a lot, is it art? Is what you do art? And sometimes, is it political? Is what you're doing political? So we like to think that it's a little bit of both. We got involved with the Toronto Public Space Committee shortly after our first event, the Easter egg hunt, and we sort of made that our ideology and capturing the importance of public spaces, especially in urban areas where people don't really have a giant backyard and a huge living room, perhaps the shared housing situation or some kind of thing like that. And yeah, just really accepting the city and the streets and the parks as your living room.
So in New York City, if you want to have an event in a park that has more than 20 people, you need a permit. We've never gotten one. So we believe that a good citizen is obligated to break unjust laws, and we believe that, in New York especially, that requiring a permit for over 20 people is an abridgment of the First Amendment. And here in Canada, we believe it's protected by the Charter. So the law in New York was sort of was made to sort of prevent people from having like giant barbecues in Prospect Park. But I think that as far as I can tell, we are the most flagrant violators of this law. A little more extreme, though, is China. So China is a pretty interesting case because there have been a lot of Asian pillow fights over the years, and a lot of them have tried to start up in China. So in 2009, Shanghai said, we're going to have our first pillow fight. Do you have any advice? And we actually had no idea how to respond to that. So, we told them no one's ever been arrested, as far as we can tell, for putting on a pillow fight until 2010, I think. So in China, they decided to have their pillow fight in Shanghai. There were about 100 people. They came out for the pillow fight in front of in a big public square, and very shortly after they started, they got shut down. The police said, "You can't do this here." They moved everyone aside. No pillow fighting in Shanghai. At the same time, the state-run media, CCTV, showed a video of the New York City pillow fight, showing how great it was. So while they were shutting down the Shanghai pillow fight, they were lauding ours.
That made us kind of sad, but yes. So, but while our events may not immediately be the highest form of art, we do think that that out of all the forms of art, events have the greatest potential to make you feel pure, unadulterated joy. And it's a way to get people to participate. And we sort of feel like it's a good way for people to become invested in their politics or in local, local politics, even just in their neighborhood, and just seeing sort of what's going on in their neighborhood, what's going on in their city, what's going on in their country, and this is sort of a good way to get folks interested in that.
So, a lot of people ask us what's next. We're actually kind of tired of the question, but we'll tell you, just because you're here. So we're doing a couple different things that we see as logical extensions to what we've already been doing. We sort of established our core events, and in fact, maybe we're getting to the old Mindspace now. We have our core events. People do them all over the world. We've been doing them in New York and Toronto for 7 years now. So what are we doing now?
So I don't know if I call that exactly old Newmindspace, but but we basically started throwing a fun convention, let's say, and it kind of brings into all different kinds of things. Anything that anyone is interested in, it's welcome at Atomic Lollipop. And maybe some shameless promotion here. It's in July, on July 14th and 15th, and it's a weekend-long convention, basically. That it's basically the idea to get people interested in something and meet other people who are also interested in something and get them to meet and hang out and share their something with each other, and just a place for people to teach each other things that they know and learn how to do different things together and have fun. And I don't know, there's all kinds of stuff. There's things like learning how to crochet or learning how to belly dance or learning how to DJ, as well as all these other elements of fashion show and people making their own costumes. And there's a lot of our kind of events in there. Like there's a pillow fight this year. There's going to be a lightsaber battle and all kinds of wacky things going on. But it's sort of, we're just trying to build a more, or continue, I guess, the culture that we started 7 years ago. And a lot of the people who began that sort of journey with us 7 years ago are also now 7 years older and looking for more things to do, different things to do, different ways to get involved in various communities and meeting different people. They don't necessarily want to go to a pillow fight or capture the flag game or something like that, but they have, they have maybe skills that they'd like to teach other people, or going away for a weekend is maybe more something they're interested in doing. So it's kind of this yearly thing, and we do events throughout the year that are kind of mini versions of them during the day, where we sort of showcase a few different people or a few different artists and a few different workshops and bring those all together. So it's sort of similar to Newmindspace in that there's various events throughout the year, but just kind of building this community of young people who are interested in having fun and doing things.
So there aren't any angel investors or VCs in the crowd, are there? I'm just kidding. So that's what we're doing in Toronto. And so for the last for all of my life, I've either lived in New York or Toronto. I've never lived anywhere else. I was born in New York. 17 years later, I moved to Toronto when Bush got reelected, and I left. I left when my visa expired. So in 5 days, I'm moving to San Francisco, and I think it's really that time that I moved to San Francisco, started a software company, and so next up for me is creating a product called Speakeasy. I actually don't have any screenshots in my slide, do I? So Speakeasy is it sort of came out of the idea that the way that we made the Pillow Fight international was by sort of distilling it down to a basic need that planning, publicizing, and executing events is difficult. It's not easy. It's not something that everyone can do, but it's something that a lot of people are interested in doing. And so by adding a pretty simple piece of technology, we enabled anyone who wanted to put on a massive pillow fight in their city. So we realized that there's actually a pressing need for people to put on events everywhere. And as we said, we believe that events are really the art form that is closest to pure joy. So what we want to do is make everyone have the ability to put on events anywhere. So the purpose of Speakeasy is to transform anyone into an event promoter.
Facebook sucks.
Yeah, because Facebook sucks, right? So then on the user side, actually, you know what? I'll show you the slides. So, Speakeasy is a web platform and a mobile app, and so doing Newmindspace for as long as it did, we realized that there are times when you are drunk at 1 o'clock in the morning and you're really looking for something to do. You're in Williamsburg, the L train is down, you're in Parkdale, and it's going to be half an hour until a streetcar comes. You want to be able to look on your phone and find out what is going on around you. However, most people would not ever list their loft, their house, just any intimate space that they own. So our goal is to change that. We want to say that if you have a space that you can put on an event, you can throw a party anywhere that you control. So, say you have a loft in Parkdale or whatever, or you have an apartment in Little Italy. You put your event on Speakeasy, and anyone can find it on their phone using geolocation. So obviously you don't just want any random person coming to your house. So just like Airbnb, we have a system of controls in place that say there's a system of badges, testimonials, and also a way to verify users. So it's not just anyone coming to your house. So the reason we made it like this is because we want everyone to believe that at any time they could also host an event. They could actually host a profitable event.
Even things like a clothing swap or something could be listed.
And so, it may turn out that after we get traction with this app, that what people are actually doing with it is, hosting, turning their house into a coffee shop. We really have no idea. However, we want to make sure that anyone who wants to put on an event anywhere in the world is able to easily, and then have a community of people who are willing to attend. So, the plan, go to San Francisco, raise a seed round, and hopefully make events happen all over the world. So, I think, that the event that we do that is closest to pure joy is probably the bubble battle. Everyone likes bubbles, and the great thing about putting on a bubble battle in New York or Toronto is that when you blow bubbles on any random street, you can find out the word for bubbles in just about any language. So, dealing with New York is a very interesting thing. Like I said, the reason that I moved to Toronto originally from New York is because George Bush got reelected, and I felt very bad about being American at the time. So I came to U of T as kind of like an excuse to get a visa, but the truth is I very rarely went to class. So after my visa expired, I went back to New York and wasn't really sure what I was going to do when I arrived, but shortly I found myself managing an illegal nightclub in Bushwick. So we thought that perhaps that was the way that we were going to fund Newmindspace. And the reason this is such a problem for us is because over the years we're always approached by corporations looking to sponsor our events. We've said no to Procter & Gamble, we've had offers from Nestle, we've had offers from massive corporations that are just looking for a piece. But every time we said no, because we really believe that our events ought to dismantle marketing, not support it. So we thought, what we really need is some kind of endemic way that we can leverage our events to make money and then support these things that we're usually paying for out of pocket. So there I was running an illegal nightclub in Bushwick, and we got a lot of great press, we got a lot of great crowds. We could hold about 500 people in this warehouse, and we had a massive rooftop with an amazing view of Manhattan. So, over time though, we noticed that the fire department didn't really care for our activities. And so there's a really cool thing that you can do on the City of New York website. You can go and look at all the complaints that have been lobbied against the building. So our building, 1532 Decatur, had a very interesting one. Above address being operated as a nightclub without a permit. So every weekend for 12 months we had 500 kids, sweaty, drunk, hanging from the ceiling in our place, just having the greatest time. And we were actually making a pretty fair amount of money. So for 2009, all Newmindspace events were funded by this, illegal operation. However, we lacked a certificate of occupancy, a permit of assembly, a liquor license, a cabaret license, which you need for dancing in New York City, Department of Health inspection, and proper fire exits. So then, as all things do, it came to an end. So we got raided in October of 2009, and it was a bad time, especially because I was in a towel. So the police came in, NYPD. They made some arrests. They raided the place, and then they left. So as we were trying to figure out what to do, they came in very shortly thereafter, and they said, "We're here again." I said, "Are you kidding? I'm in a towel again." So they came in, and they were like, "Yeah, so you have to vacate this building." And I was like, "So let me guess, I had like 24 hours to get my things?" And they were like, "No, 30 minutes." So I packed everything I could into 2 suitcases. I had my laptop and the clothes that I liked the most, and everything else confiscated by the NYPD.
All of our silkscreen t-shirts.
All of our t-shirts. So, yeah, I guess... So, unfortunately, that's actually not the way that we can fund our events. So, what we decided, though, is hopefully what we can do in the future is we want to establish a fund. This is a fund that exists for the urban playground movement, that will exist for the urban playground movement. And if you adhere to our ideology, then you can apply for grants. The reason that we were only able to get footing in 150 cities is because, that's as far as free could go. But if there was a little bit of money, then we could put on something amazing, and everyone could put on something amazing. So in the future, we would like to create a fund that grants money to urban playground organizations. So, if we had to summarize for you our message.
Basically, have fun. Find something you enjoy doing or that is meaningful to you, and do it. And invite your friends to do the same.
And never stop thinking of new ways to have fun. Thank you very much. So we'll open it up for questions if anybody has any. Does anybody have any questions? Right there.
Just kind of wondering, did you guys maybe see any influence of Newmindspace maybe on like the Occupy movement, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's an interesting question actually, because there is so at Occupy Wall Street, there's a lot of different committees, and one of them was created to imitate our events called Revolutionary Games. So we had a meeting with Revolutionary Games because we knew that
we debated for a while about getting involved in the first place, but
yeah,
we decided ultimately to meet with them.
Yeah, so I mean, we had some we had some issues, I guess, with Occupy Wall Street. But ultimately we realized that if they were going to be co-opting our events, hopefully we could find a way to steer it anyway. So Revolutionary Games was created, and we met with them, so they asked us, just like who to talk to, basically how to do our events, and this is not it's not like sacred knowledge. We're not going to tell them no. We won't tell you how. But then after that, we noticed that they started coming to a lot of our events. So I think the thing is with any large gathering, just about any of the 950 cities that Occupy is present in, they're kind of going to become a fact of life. And we have mixed feelings about them, but in general, yeah, they definitely did start to co-opt our events.
Yeah, the main reason that we aren't necessarily political or overly political is we really would like to keep our events as, when people ask us why, we would like the answer to remain why not, and not because of some political agenda or something going on with current affairs. So.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Come on, we know it's early.
If you're looking for a way to fund it outside of the grants, would there be a time that you might reconsider corporate sponsorships and things along those lines? Not so much to take away from, the big bad corporations, but just so that you guys can continue to do good, and why not?
Yeah, it's definitely a perpetual question, and it definitely weighs on us very heavily. But the thing is, the reason that the most valuable asset we have is actually not our events, but the community that forms around it. And so we know that we built this community with a great sense of goodwill, that we actually were never going to accept corporate sponsorship in these events. We're always going to be free and free of branding. So I'm about 80% certain that if we accepted corporate sponsorship, then that would immediately alienate our community, and then we would have nothing left. So it would kind of become the snake that ate itself, if you will.
We have worked with companies before. Occasionally they've paid us sort of as marketing consultants, and we've helped them put on an event. Their branding only, not our branding attached to it. And whenever that happens, we get a bit of money, and we also, have some money donated to a charity, generally World Wildlife Fund. So we have done a bit of that in the past, but personally, I'm not so interested in marketing in the corporate world. Not that we wouldn't be good at it.
I was thinking more like product placement, right? So if you've got bubbles, get all of the bubbles for free, right?
Yeah, actually,
that's one thing that we have kind of thought about occasionally more seriously.
Yeah, there's a company in California called Imperial Toy, and if you think about it, the innovations in bubble technology are actually very rare. So they were created in the 1950s, as like a mass market product, and they really haven't come a very long way, with the exception of Touch-A-Bubbles, which were created in Toronto actually. But when they and Zubbles, right? So Zubbles are colored bubbles. It took them 10 years to make this product because before they put food dye, and if you try to put food dye in bubbles, it just slips off because of the way that the sphere is created. So this guy, he spent 5 years creating a colored bubble, and he did it successfully after dyeing his own sclera in his eyes purple. So permanently, it's still like that. So then he went into an investor meeting, and he blew the bubbles on the conference table, and the dye never came out. So they said, go back to the drawing board and come back when you cannot leave a stain on our conference table. So so they created, but then 5 years later, it's been perfected, and now there are Zubbles. But there's a new product created by Imperial Toy, and it's glowing bubble solution. It's actually one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So we asked Imperial Toy if they would donate to us 1,000 of these tubes, and they said yes.
Nighttime bubble battle.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully in the future we can have a nighttime bubble battle, and when it gets on your hands, it looks like a solar system. It's like on your palm, And so hopefully we can have 1,000 of these big glowing tubes, and then blowing bubbles throughout the air.
Because you can invest it also back in the community, right? So even if you did get the donation and the product placement cash, you could still do good and take the fund, and then also, I mean, the mindset now is very charitable. Spending is at an all-time low in terms of personal disposable income, but donating and things like that, and that would only enhance your image of the brand.
Yeah, so we had an event called the Big Kiss, and we worked with Virgin Mobile to put this event on. And Virgin Mobile, their whole the whole idea behind their brand is it's always Valentine's Day. So they always want to be like lovey, sexy, cheeky. They have these big buff angels that are always walking around their events. So it was around the holiday season, and they came to us and they said, do you think you could come up with an event that is sort of tied to our theme of Perpetual Valentine's Day that also has to do with the holidays? And so that's when we came up with the idea for the Big Kiss. So we had Virgin Mobile make for us the world's largest mistletoe. It actually ended up looking kind of janky, but don't tell them that. So they created for us the world's largest mistletoe, and we orchestrated 500 couples to kiss below this mistletoe at the same time. So we told them that we wouldn't participate unless they donated money to our favorite charity, which is World Wildlife Fund Canada. So we've worked in the past. We put on an event for WWF Canada a long time ago in Metro Hall Square, and we told them the chalk was temporary, but it was there for like a month. So yeah, then they became our favorite charity to work with. They were actually really great, and so our agreement with Virgin Mobile was for every couple that kisses under this mistletoe, donate $5 to WWF Canada, and they did.
Have you guys branched out into doing team building exercises and things like that for corporations?
Yeah,
I did that briefly. It was terrible. It might be okay now that I'm not a full-time student and sleeping 4 hours a day, but yeah, it was a lot of meetings ahead of time, and a lot of people are really picky about what they want their employees to be doing sometimes, and it took up way more time than the actual events itself, and it was just not worth it.
We also think that scavenger hunts are boring and contrived. and
that's
hopefully,
all they wanted to do.
And hopefully we'll never do it.
That's it. They were either have a pillow fight in our conference room or a scavenger hunt around the city.
Although we did have the pleasure of speaking in front of a couple of different boards of Fortune 500 companies in Canada. So once we were hired to speak in front of the board of winners, and because they hired us as sort of experts at rallying a crowd of millennials. So the funny thing was, it was kind of a weird scene because it was me, a cook, a priest, and the head of MySpace Canada. There's definitely a joke in here somewhere. But, then the thing is, though, I need to question the usefulness of the panel because the thing they did right before was trying to pitch a tent blindfolded. Anyone else?
So how do you guys feel then about sites like Kickstarter or something like that, doing if your events involve crowds, why not have crowdfunding or crowdsourcing?
Yeah, actually, the most interesting, in my opinion, the most interesting free event organization that exists that is doing events currently right now is called Decentralized Dance Party. Tom and Gary's Decentralized Dance Party. Those guys are awesome. They so what they do is they collect hundreds of boomboxes. They tune them to an FM transmitter, and then they bring the FM transmitter around the city, creating this massive mobile dance party. And the problem we always had on the subway was that if we had multiple sound systems, the sounds were never synced. So they have this FM transmitter and hundreds of boomboxes playing the same sound, and they go through the city dressed in neon and banana suits, and it actually is some of the most fun you can possibly have. The way that they fund their events is they first put it on Facebook and they say, are enough people in this city interested in this event? And then they say, okay, well, now that we know that you want this event, we won't do it unless the Kickstarter reaches $1,000. So they've actually been incredibly successful at crowdfunding that way. It definitely beats our model of putting it on our credit cards and begging people later. So yeah, I think that would you know, there's got to be also a technological solution where you can both gauge people's interest and raise money at the same time. So we created a script actually where people can vote for what cities they want a lightsaber battle in, and it turned out that the most votes came from Halifax.
So now it's find a time this summer to go there.
All right, well, thank you guys very much. Yeah, so we need to find like a time to order like 5,000. It's like, it hasn't been a good time yet because I don't know physically where I'm going to be. So I think there's so we don't know if the best thing to do is have it shipped to California or to Toronto. So if you ship it to Toronto, it's much more expensive. But most of the cities that are having lightsaber battles are Canadian, so it means it pays duties to pay for it. So like, yeah, but the thing is, if they find you with like 1,000 pieces of brand new merchandise in your car, it can be like heavily taxed. So, but I'll figure it out. Okay. That way, the bus trip down now. Everyone brought one. Yeah. 5 or something. Yeah. That might be okay. But the thing is, like, it's hard for them to believe us when we say that they're not for resale, right? Because we're like, oh no, they're just gifts, and they're like, they're definitely not gifts. Depends on your game. Yeah. Well, we'll figure it out. Are you good for the whole week? Yeah, I'm good for the whole week.